Astropuffs. I'm Lexi and I was really inspired today to do a video about the Saturn return. So in this video, I'm going to try to supply you with the most necessary information that you need to know about the Saturn return. I'm going to talk about what it is. What is the energy of the Saturn return? I'm going to give you some facts. I'm going to give you some survival tips as well. I also wrote a blog post. I'm going to refer to that and I'll link it below so you guys can have a reference point. You can come back to that blog post. I inserted some practical exercises that you could work through if you're really struggling with your Saturn return. I have your back, guys, with this video. Saturn returns are notoriously difficult periods, but they're also quite famous. So I think even people that don't like astrology or don't understand astrology or they're not interested, at least they have heard at least once in their life about a Mercury retrograde and a Saturn return. So I'm going to tackle the Saturn return in this video. Hey beautiful soul, if you survived your Mars return, which takes place around the age of 27, and you managed not to die in some sort of violent, horrific, unexpected circumstances, check the Club of 27 if you guys know what I'm talking. Amy Winehouse, for example, was part of that group of people that sadly died tragically at the age of 27 during their Mars return. Anyway, closing that parenthesis, you survived. You are here. Congratulations. You're nearing the age of 28 and a half, 29. You're close to the 30th checkpoint. Well, the universe is going to give you another challenge, and this is going to be expressed in your camera tremble for the win. Saturn return. It is a period of contraction. Everything that you have experienced as abundant, lavish, free, coming to you easily up until the point in time when you reach your 28th birthday is going to all of a sudden get cut off. Let's say you had your parents support you. Let's say you were living off life quite lavishly because other people were financially or materially supporting you. You lived as a student, you have student debts or loans, but you weren't so worried about that. You know, you worked a couple of jobs here and there, you were making good money, but you weren't really funneling it into something. Well, here comes Saturn return to let you know that you have to actually commit to something. It is basically a period of your lifetime that takes place across the span of 2.5 years, depending on each transit. Saturn tends to spend longer times in the signs in which it feels most comfortable, such as Aquarius, Capricorn, and Libra, and less time in signs that it doesn't really like Aries, for example, or Leo. This is a very bizarre fact, but there you go. Saturn has astrological preferences, that old hag. As I mentioned, Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign, the astrological sign that rules the month of January. It's very silent, it's very tranquil. Everything that happens in January happens beneath the surface, happens in the ground. The seeds are germinating and preparing to hatch for spring. Capricorn is the sign of gathering resources and holding on to them. It is the sign of foundations, sign of limits. It is the sign of karma. During your Saturn return, this is a notoriously difficult period, not only because you will feel a sense of restriction from your external reality, but also you will feel pressure internally. You will feel as if your desires are growing, but you might find that you don't really have the necessary resources to get there. So you have to make a plan to figure out how can I get from A to B to C and win the jackpot. In order for me to prepare and channel into this energy, I also made a plan of how I want my video to look like. So again, planning things, pen and paper, strategy, figuring out who do I need to talk, what kind of money is involved in this endeavor, what do I need to commit to? Another really interesting thing that happens during the Saturn return, as I said, a period of 2 years that happens between the age of 28 to 30th. It culminates at 30, depending on your placement and your ascendant. For some people, it begins a bit later than others. So let's say it kind of reaches a midpoint for some people at 29 and for others closer to 31, depending on a lot of combination of the planets in your chart. So feel free to get in touch with me for a personal reading. You also get a lot of rewards for the good work that you have done. So there are two scenarios that could take place here. Let's say you were a person that actually, from the age of about 21, 23, when you first had a Saturn square to your sun, that's usually when most of us experience the first big, significant, aware, conscious Saturn square to our sun, we feel a sense of inner pressure. What do I want to do with my life? How do I want to spend my 20s? If you are the kind of person that decided to commit to something, to my studies, to earning money so I can get a place, so I can get like a car, so I can travel and experience, or to a relationship. I met somebody in high school, I want them to be the person that I'm gonna marry them. Let's see how we can work this out together in time. If you were this kind of person, and if indeed the choices you made were in tune with your inner knowing, with your intuition, with your gut reactions, with your life path, then during your Saturn return, my friend, I have great news for you. You are going to be blessed. You are going to be so rewarded. But before you are actually blessed by Saturn, you will be tested. Your commitment will be tested. So following the scenario where you actually committed to a person, let's say from high school, your high school sweetheart, you've been together for 8 years, you've been through it all, you feel like you're solid. When Saturn hits the return point, so basically when Saturn comes back to the position where it was originally when you were born, then all of a sudden you start having the need to level up your relationship in front of other people, because Saturn rules social status. So it becomes really important all of a sudden how your friends, how your family, how the people in your community see your relationship to that person. So you might decide, if everything is going well, great, let's get married, let's have children, let's buy a house, let's get pets, let's settle down. So you do all of these really pragmatic things of settling, of grounding, of building your foundations. You're basically in a process of stabilizing yourself. You're crystallizing energy into matter. Let's take the other scenario. Let's say that you completely ignored the energy of your Sun square Saturn. You decided to drink your worries away. You decided to go to Ibiza and party. You decided to completely neglect what you're going to do with your money. You just live from job to job, experience to experience, girlfriend to girlfriend, or boyfriend to boyfriend. You just wanted to gather a lot of experience, a lot of, your street cred, so to say. You excelled at the school of life rather than traditional schooling methods. You gathered all this experience. Well, all of a sudden, when Saturn return hits, you feel the pressure to actually have something solid in your life. And it's going to be harder for you than for people that were already kind of building their foundation slowly and securely, and they're already seeing some of the rewards of all that effort pay off during their Saturn return. For you, you're going to have to start to build your foundation from zero. And you're going to feel intense pressures to finish your education, to get a better paid job, to work on your self-esteem, to commit to a relationship, to find the person that you actually want to settle and, get some roots working with that person. Maybe you feel the pressure from your parents all of a sudden to have a child, to get married, to settle down somehow, to support the family or carry the family name and the renown and the status forward. So you might feel slightly more pressured. You might need to do much more work than all the other people that have carefully tended to their garden before Saturn actually hit. But it's not impossible, guys. I've seen a lot of different stories. The other scenario where you have put a lot of effort into your things, you did not make choices based on your soul calling, on your heart. You did not make choices based on an alignment with your North Node. I found this to be the hardest transit. It happened to me as well. It happened to a couple of my close friends. What happens is basically, if you thought mostly with your logical mind and you made decision based on what other people might want to see happen in your life, then Saturn is gonna take you away from your foundation, destroy it, and put you on a different path. So let's say you got married very early, and this is why, as an addendum, astrologers usually recommend that people don't get married before their first Saturn return, because, as I said, it's a period where we reevaluate deeply who we want to actually settle down and build a foundation with in the next years. And whatever Saturn touches and whatever foundations are built during that period, it grows and grows and grows and gives rewards that are long lasting. So it's a really important period. This is why it's so hard. So let's say that you got married before your Saturn return. and you thought everything was good. Well, perhaps if that person is not truly your soulmate, if you just got married because your parents said so, then you are going to be tested in your relationship. A spouse might start acting up. They might start cheating on you. They might start drinking. They might start developing all sorts of anxiety attacks or diseases, or in some worse situations, they could also be removed completely from your life in accidents. Really difficult things are going to happen that are going to make you open up heart-wise to the idea that this person is not meant to be with you. So you might need to separate from them, or life is just gonna separate you from them one way or another. Trust me, it happened to me as well. I thought I was at the beginning of my transit, I felt I was really stable and full of support, and life literally took a person out of my life to clear the space so that I could work on myself and follow my true path, which was developing myself as a writer and as a healer. All sorts of things can happen during this period, but it's really, really important, guys, to not get into a really low mood for a long period of time. Saturn as well, because it has this limiting, constricting energy, it tends to depress you. It's completely the opposite of Jupiter, that expands you and makes you feel super confident and very optimistic and heck with it, let's just do it, take risks everywhere, left and right. No, Saturn is a bit more like you feel like something or somebody is on your shoulders all the time and you want to lift the burden and it keeps coming back and you get stiffs in the neck and your back starts to hurt. So it's really a reminder of the fact that you are matter, that you are finite matter as well. So you have a limited time here on earth, and your body is gonna get older, your bones might start hurting, you're gonna start getting your first wrinkles, you're gonna start getting your first gray hairs. Usually around the age of 30, people, if they didn't get them by then, they will start getting all these signs of, hey, my body's getting older, I am not getting any younger. And this is also a massive wake-up call for those of us particularly that just spend most of their 20s partying and just self-indulging in pleasures. So Saturn is reminding you that, hello, clock is ticking. What are you doing? What are you leaving behind? Is this how you really want to spend your life? If you've been really into this partying and self-indulging lifestyle, depending on the kind of position of Saturn in your chart and all the aspects that it makes, you could also start having, and generally as we grow older, you start to have more serious hangovers. So you realize, I can't keep doing this every weekend. Also because your money is going to be depleted, but your energy is going to be depleted and your body is not keeping up anymore with the abuses we keep putting it through. A lot of elements are going to slowly start to build and gather to press you into reconsidering how you spend your energy. Saturn is a lot about conservation, preservation. During this period, when you will actually feel this inward pressure to excel, to become somebody, and this outward pressure from other people, these expectations that you need to actually do that. So, your family or friends are going to start looking at you like, so, all that money that we've invested in you, all that love, how is it paying off? As soon as you start to get these influences, you need to figure out how to spend your energy. And you have to do it wisely because you will have very little energy and a lot of work to do. A lot of responsibilities and opportunities are going to come up at you during this period. And you have to choose wisely and figure out how can you balance work, because it's going to be a lot of work. Saturn is about effort. And how can you balance work with self-care, with rest? So there's going to be a period of accommodation, especially in the first year of your Saturn return, where you're going to feel like bamboozled. If you're not accustomed to this energy, you'll feel like super constricted, limited. As I said, you're going to feel the pressure to commit to something. If you don't commit to something, it's going to be taken away out of your life. And whatever shows up for you during this period of your Saturn return, it's going to be so enticing, it's going to be so desirable, and you're going to feel so attracted to that particular project, goal, job, person, that you're going to want to put the effort into it, okay? So it's going to try to level you up. Experiences are going to show up. Gurus, mentors, older people are going to show up to try to teach you some lessons in self-growth, maturity, and coming badass boss. Basically, the universe wants you to become a boss, okay? And this is especially strongly emphasized for those of you that have North nodes in boss signs, okay? Such as North node in Capricorn, North node in Aries, North node in Leo, to some extent Sagittarius as well. But those of you that have these North nodes that are mostly gonna be trining or squaring Saturn energy, you're going to be pushed into it much strongly than other of us that have, for example, North nodes in Pisces, North node in Libra, where it's more about relating with others, merging with others, trusting, being creative. So they're going to have a much more strongly Neptune return, but I can talk about that in a different video. Let me just give you some dates now because I promised you some facts as well. So currently Saturn is in Capricorn. Saturn is in its own sign. Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn, and it's currently in the sign of the goat. Materialism, obsession with status seems to be rife in our culture at the moment. There's also an obsession with limits and obstacles, as you get to see that borders have increased in countries all over the world, and now we're even having a virus that needs to be contained. So it's a lot about don't touch me, use your hand sanitizer, be careful how you prepare, how much money are you making? Do you have designer brand clothes? Do you have a house? Do you have a car? Do you have a wife and children? So it's a lot about, or a husband and children. So it's a lot about what you have, what you own, material things. There isn't a lot of compassion going out there. There is definitely a deficit of love, nurturing, and care in the world at the moment. And we see this with the massive cut in the sector of our well-being and state support for vulnerable people, elderly people, young people, so on and so forth. But this is happening only in certain countries. In other countries, actually, these foundations have been reestablished with a rise in traditionalism. Closing that parenthesis, there's going to be a really important shift happening this month. It's March 2020 when I'm filming this, for those of you that are going to watch this in the future. And I just want to say that on the 23rd of March, I'm basing this on my ephemeris here in Europe. On the 23rd of March 2020, this Saturn placement from Capricorn is going to move into Aquarius. And as I mentioned, Saturn in Capricorn is all about what you have, boss energy, how you control your own life and your own reality, the status, the money, the wealth that you make. Interestingly, from the 23rd of March, we're going to move into a different paradigm. Saturn's energy is going to move into Aquarius. We are going to be confronted with the need to help other people, the need to get out of our silos, of our small-minded groups, of our obsession with status, and figure out how can we give to the world? How can we basically nourish and cherish other people? Because Aquarius is the sign of the water bearer. The water bearer is the one that actually lavishes knowledge and beauty and information onto the world in order to humanize it. Without the water bearer, we wouldn't have water, and people that have strong water placements wouldn't feel nourished, okay? So Aquarius is a lot about being a humanitarian, teaching others, helping elevate them. Our higher self, our ideals, it's usually represented in tarot by an angel, the divine. It's concentrated air, okay? So it does represent the realm of heaven. Aquarius also rules astrology. So expect during this Saturn in Aquarius period to see an increase in people just wearing their freak on like it's a badge of honor. We've already seen, and I actually wrote a blog post about a rise in the new spiritual leaders of the world at the moment. We've already seen a traditional demise of institutions such as the church and temples and mosques. Although these places of traditional worship continue to function and continue to be quite stable in a lot of places in this world, they are increasingly being eroded, especially in Western countries, right? And instead of this traditional form of religion, like praying in a church and having all these rituals that most people tend to see that they're outdated or antiquated, they don't seem to resonate with their current ascension and spiritual processes. So instead of those, because people continue to need advice and find their life path and meaning in life, we see a current rise in shamans, witches, astrologers, tarot readers, life coaches, doulas, basically a group of people that were traditionally considered to be the outsiders, the freaks of society. We know for a fact that witches were burned on the stake and not allowed to practice magic during the medieval ages in Europe, for example, but also during like the 18th and 17th century in America. It was just a period of repression of uniqueness and individuality. Well, right now with Saturn in Aquarius, starting from the 23rd of March, a period of 2 years, so I think it's going to actually end on the 2022, right about the time when the foundations of Pluto entering Aquarius are going to be laid. We are going to be seeing a lot of people coming forward. You can see a rise in people that were considered odd or weird or freakish becoming center stage. They're going to be leaders of opinion. They're going to increase the awareness of people that such services can actually improve humanity, that there is a place and a time for everyone to be unique, to be freaky, to be themselves if this is who they are. So the landscape in the next year is going to change dramatically. And this is going to be really interesting especially for the generation that is born in the end of 1990, 1991, 1992, because that is the generation born with Saturn in Aquarius and, interestingly, North Node in Capricorn. So especially if you guys are born in 1991, then you are Saturn's in Aquarius with North Node in Capricorn. There is such a large tension within you between the forces of progress and the forces of tradition. Should I follow tradition because my North Node is saying submit to the rule of the father, submit to tradition, but your Saturn in Aquarius is actually saying be your own personal freak. And I don't know why, but you know, guys, that personal Jesus, reach out and touch faith, that just started singing in my head as I was saying this. So there's going to be a tension, and this tension is going to be really interesting to observe how it's going to play out in the next 2 years as Saturn in Aquarius is going to be unfolding. Everything that I've said at the beginning of this video continues to apply to you guys, and whatever I said at the beginning of this video also applies to those of you that are having your second Saturn returns. Your second Saturn returns take place around the age of 56, 57. 55 for others, again, depending on where your Saturn is exactly placed. I need to see the birth chart to tell you precisely the period and the degree. Roughly around the age of 56 and 57, you're going to be tested again based on what was the foundation that you built in your life so far. That is usually the time when people experience what is called a middle life crisis. So we have to be very careful about the things that we do and we say as we go along and carry the legacy of our first Saturn return to our second Saturn return. I think that this is a little bit too abstract. Let me give you a personal example of how the Saturn energy could play out. As I mentioned before, it could play out in your intimate sphere based on you solidifying the relationships with people that you've known for a very long time. You get married and you have children with them, or you realize they are not your soulmate, so you break apart, you suffer for a little bit, because Saturn energy is usually about suffering and effort. It's not at all fun energy. So that's why I urge you guys to please take really loads of good care of you during that period. Sleep well, exercise, eat well, and hydrate yourself. Try as much as possible not to be around people, toxic people, because that's only going to drain your energy and you're only going to end up manifesting more obstacles and more challenges, more suffering. I can give you my own example because that's the one I know. Before my Saturn return, I have Saturn in Sagittarius and I've just survived it, so I can actually share this with you guys. It was a really, really successful Saturn return, I have to say. So I was a student when my Saturn return began. I was working towards my PhD. I was relatively poor. I had a stipend, a bursary that was paying for my PhD costs, but not much else. So I had to work 2 jobs to support myself. I was living in another country, separated from my family. And I was in a relationship with a man who was richer, more powerful than me. And I thought, my life is made. I can just finish this PhD and then get married with him and everything is going to be fine. Well, wake up call. That was not how things are going to be played out, because my North Node is in Aries, and Aries is the sign of independence. So that man was taken out of my life by very weird, dramatic circumstances. He's okay, don't worry guys, he's not dead or anything like that. But it was just, we were separated, okay? So Saturn separates you from what is not meant to be on your life path. And then I was more or less pushed into a regime of intense self-care and writing because I had to finish my PhD. As I said, I worked 2 jobs. I went to the gym. I was trying to get over the breakup, so trying not to cry myself to sleep or drink myself to sleep every night because I was alone. I felt completely abandoned by members of my family. Nobody could understand what I was going through. And to top it all, I had to come home and continue writing a very lengthy and very logical, rational, and emotionally draining type of work. But I completed it, and it went so well that I got a magna cum laude. It was wonderful, and very soon after, I was so intent on getting well paid because I realized how important it is to have good money in order for me to eat good food and to be able to pay my membership at the gym and to continue to work well. So I got a full-time job, and I got it like 2 weeks after I finished my PhD, which was absolutely amazing. However, and this is the thing with Saturn return, the job that I got involved me relocating from the city in which I was so attached to. So again, attachment and separation. So I was separated from the city where I completed my PhD, and I had to relocate to a place where I didn't really want to go, England. At the same time, it was a well-paid job. It was a permanent job, so it was offered to me for a lifetime. Again, whatever Saturn gives you and rewards you is very strong, and it tends to last for a very long time. So I relocated and I started my job there, and it was an intense period of work. But at the same time, I had, for the first time in my life, a stable, good salary. Now, the thing is that as Saturn moved from Sagittarius to Capricorn, I actually realized how much of an ego-based reality that was, how I created this false persona based on my ego and on my status-driven kind of obsession to be somebody, to gather money. So next part of my Saturn return, I had to deconstruct this idea of who I really was. And I mostly deconstructed this through how I communicated with others, because Saturn moved into my 3rd house. But I don't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to give you an example that you can go from penniless student like I was in a relationship hugely imbalanced from the point of view of power and age, because I was in a relationship with a guy that was older than me and richer than me, to a situation where I was independent, financially independent by myself, and I have acquired status and a good position, and I had my own flat, and I was fully independent in just the span of 2 years. So it is possible, guys. It comes with a lot of effort, but you will meet people that will support you. You will meet a lot of mentors that will support you. And the feeling, like the self-perpetuating feeling of happiness that you get once you see your efforts paying off, it's like nothing I've ever felt before in my life. When after all this hard work, you get rewards and people actually salute you on that, it's just like heart explodes. I also wanted to show you the glyph. Saturn looks in your chart like this. So don't worry when this guy is making its 28-year-old, 29th-year-old round back to the position in your chart where it was when you were born. Saturn is there only to help you grow. The good thing about Saturn energy and what I like about it is that it is very predictable. When your Saturn return begins, you know exactly what you have to do. It isn't a big surprise. You already feel it. You know it. I need to buckle up and finish this project. I need to find my soulmate, or I need to buy my house. How do I get there? I need to finish my PhD. I need to relocate to another country. I need to get a better paid job. I want to have children. I'm going to do that. I'm going to become really responsible and going to explore all my options in terms of paternity or maternity leave and figure out how I balance work and care. So you know what you want to achieve. You know what the pressure is going to be about. There are going to be some efforts. Your commitment is going to be tested over and over again, because Saturn wants you to let yourself know, how badly do you want what you put your mind to? Do you really want it? Are you sure you want this? Are you sure this is exactly what you want? And if you answer yes, 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 and if you push forward and you focus only on what's essential and discard superfluous, then you're going to get fantastic material, physical, tangible, financial results. One thing I would say is that one of my biggest regrets with Saturn return is that I wasn't able to, well, to a certain extent, I also think it was fated for me not to be able to balance my creativity and my projects, my work projects, with intimacy and partnership. Again, because of my North Node in Aries. So Aries is all about independence and being a maverick and a pioneer on your own, lone wolf kind of mentality. But if you're lucky enough to have a North Node in a much more forgiving sign, what I would suggest to you guys, and this is how I want to wrap up this video with something from my heart directly to yours, please take care of your relationships with those around you, because you have to be very careful what you commit during your Saturn return. If you only commit to work, you will receive fantastic rewards. You might even become rich. You will become very stable, as it happened to me as well. But you will not have people by your side to celebrate as you actually reach the top of the mountain. Because, Saturn represents Capricorn, and Capricorn is the goat that climbs steadily in weird positions to the top of the mountain. When you reach the top of the mountain, you don't want to be alone, trust me. The best thing about life and your achievements in life is that you get to actually share them with other people that admire you and love you. And it's wonderful when you get to do that. In my case, I wasn't able to do that, just a little bit with my family. But towards the end of the cycle, I ended up being rather alone. That's mostly because the lives of my friends exploded and it's going really well for them. And I'm super happy for them that they are right now building their foundations in other countries. So in a way, it worked well for everyone involved. Everyone seems to be on their given life path. But I just want you to, word of caution, take care of your intimate relationships during your Saturn return. Take care of yourself. Rest as much as you can. Be kind and gentle with yourself as you're fulfilling your goals and putting in all that effort to build a solid foundation in life. But really, really, really hold on to the people that you love. Commit to them as much as you commit to your work. And I promise you, you're going to have a fantastic Saturn return. I wish you all the best, guys. I love you so much. Have a wonderful Saturn return. And let me know down in the comments if you completed it, how was it? If you're about to complete it, what are some of your expectations or fears? I love you so much. Take care.